Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Amplified Impact. This is the podcast where we try to figure out how the heck we can maximize our return on life by building better businesses and investing in real estate. I'm Anthony Vicino. If you don't know me, I'm a serial entrepreneur, co-founding partner of Invictus Capital. We have about $30 million of assets under management. I've built multiple 7, 8-figure companies from the ground up. And yeah, I'm just on this quest to become the absolute best version of myself as possible, tying back to something that Abraham Maslow said. You might be familiar with him and his hierarchy of needs, but he said something else that I found so pivotal and important for my life to put into context why I feel driven to accomplish the things that I do. And maybe you can relate to this. He said, that which we can be, we must be. And it's this recognition that inside of us all, there's greatness. Nobody believes themselves that they are average. Nobody thinks that they were put onto this planet to be mediocre. And so inside of us all, we have this greatness that we are trying to manifest and move towards, but it becomes difficult. We get frustrated and angry and just discontent, depressed, when we know that we're not living in alignment with that greatness. So this is the podcast where we're going to try and figure out how the heck we can move towards our potential, chasing our capacity, as we say around these parts. And to that end, we're going to be diving into, if you haven't listened to the last 2 episodes, I laid out 21 of the lessons that I learned in 2021, because 21 lessons seemed like it would fit really well with 21. Next year, maybe we'll do 22. I don't know. It seemed like it made sense. But so I unpacked 21 lessons that I learned over the last 2 episodes, just kind of giving you the list of them. And now we're going to dive into each one of those lessons a little bit more deeply and intently. And what's really interesting about these lessons, and I said this in the previous episodes, again, if you haven't listened to those, you probably should just get some context. But there's not anything in here, in any of these lessons, that's going to be revelatory. It's not like revolutionary. It's not going to change the way that you see the world. In fact, a lot of this is stuff that you probably have already heard before in one form or another. But sometimes learning is less about like learning something new, and it's more about remembering something you already know. And for me, as I sat down to reflect on these lessons of 2021, I was like, you know what? I know all of these. It's just for whatever reason, they hit differently this year. They just had a different importance. So I'm not saying these are the most important lessons ever in life. I'm just saying these are the ones that came to mind in 2021. So today, the focus is lesson number 1. And these are in no particular order. So if you think like number 1, we're kicking it off with this one, that must be the best one. I'm sorry to disappoint. It might be the best one. It might not be. I don't know. It could be just middle of the pack. But today's lesson is progress is a process that doesn't look like much in the moment. And this was a big one for me because 2021 was a very large growth year for me as an individual, but then also for my companies, Invictus in particular. And what stuck out to me, like to give a little bit of context, last year we acquired about $30 million of assets. We wrote a book. We wrote and published an Amazon bestselling book. We published over 100 podcast episodes just on multifamily investing made simple. I had another podcast, Brain Dump, that put out another 50-ish episodes. So a lot of content going out there into the world. And we got on stage for the first time, spoke in front of 1,000 people at Jake and Gino's Multifamily Mastery. So it was like an incredible year where so much amazing stuff happened. You would look at it and you're like, man, those guys crushed it. But I was left with the feeling like I remember, I look in my journal and like I look at my state of mind and the kind of verbiage and language I was using in my journal throughout the year. And the language was like, we're not there yet. We're not growing fast enough. Like, I don't feel like I'm making progress. I don't see it. And so like, even with like all of these enormous accomplishments, there was still like these gaps and gains throughout the year where it's like nothing's happening. So like you look at the book, a book is like a really good example. That got published in August. It hit number 1 on Amazon. Stayed up there for a couple of weeks. It's been more or less in the top 10 ever since. That's awesome. But that book took like almost a year and a half. Yeah, a year and a half to write. And so there was like day after day after day of just showing up and putting words onto the page. And sometimes those words were really bad. Sometimes they were okay. But it's just a slog. Right? Writing a book is always hard. That was number 13. That was my 13th book. And it like maybe gets easier, but it never gets easy. And the distance between like when you're working and creating the product and then actually delivering it for the result is so long sometimes that it doesn't even feel like you're moving. It doesn't make you feel like you're making any progress. Because like, put this into context, that book was about 65,000 words and I aim to write about 1,000 words a day. So you just do the math on that. It's like 60 days to write, and then you figure how many times you have to go back and edit it, and then all the design, and then like putting it in front of people to get their feedback, and then editing it again. And like, it just takes so much darn time to do these things. And it's the same with real estate, buying assets. It takes a long time because you can't just rush out there and say, I want this building, I'm going to buy it at any number. Like, it doesn't work like that. You have to spend a lot of time just kind of sitting on your hands and just waiting for an opportunity to arise. And so that can leave you with the sense that like, you're not making progress, because it comes in like these fits and starts sometimes, where it's like all of a sudden it's like compounding interest, where it doesn't feel like it's doing anything until it hits this inflection point. And then all of a sudden you look at it like, holy crap, that's really growing like exponentially at this point. It's crazy. But before that moment, it's just like, what's the point of compounding interest? When you have $100 in the bank and it's compounding at 2% per year, like, it doesn't do anything, right? But once you hit that critical mass, things get crazy. And it's the same with like, I think life and any accomplishment in general, like whether you're in a sport, you're building a business, you're investing in real estate, like whatever it is, progress is a process that doesn't look like much in the moment. And that's because we're maintaining static. We're putting in the work every single day, showing up, being consistent, diligent, doing the work. But that work doesn't really, like, you need a lot of it to pile on top of each other before you're able to crawl up that dirt mound and get onto the next level. And that is a really weird analogy, but it kind of made sense in my mind as I was saying it. So we're going to roll with it. And so I guess the takeaway here is really, okay, what do we do then to find contentment, fulfillment, and accomplishments, or a sense of achievement or success in those long gaps between the external validating circumstances of I bought a property or I published a book, right? Because if it takes a year and a half to publish a book, and that's the dopamine hit that you're waiting for, is like that moment, like, then you're going to spend a year and a half just in this space of constantly looking forward and wondering, how do I get there faster? Why am I not there yet? And you hear it all the time, like, right? Process, not outcome. It's all about the work that you're doing. It's the journey. And success, really, like the way I manifest or think about it, is that success is a road. It's not the destination. It's just, we're trying to make another step, another forward, a little bit more forward momentum on that road of success, and trying to avoid ever taking steps backwards, because that can definitely happen as well. And my chair just popped down. So if you guys are watching the video and you saw me just get shorter, that was my chair just dropping me to the floor. But if we think about success as that road, then really what we need to be focusing on is that day-to-day action, that work that we're putting in, because it's going to take a whole lot of that to level up our skills and get to the place where we're putting out things into the universe that we can look back on proudly and say, I did that thing. And I know it's easy to say that, like, hey, focus on the process, be happy with like the journey. But also I recognize that I'm a hypocrite in the sense that when I'm showing up and doing the work, often I am also fantasizing about that end state, that result, and I'm just wanting to get there. So it is like this yin yang, push pull, stability, chaos relationship. So maybe just be, compassionate with yourself if you're in that place where you're struggling with that dichotomy. But recognize, like, one of the greatest things that I've figured out that works for keeping me in the moment, focused on the process, is to like set up intermediate checkpoints, and trying to find ways to measure and celebrate the progress that I'm making on any given day. So I have a whole bunch of different types of to-do lists and checklists, things that I get to go and check off on a box when I do the thing. So like, for instance, I have the rules of my life, which is a list of, it's ever growing, but right now there's probably like 15 or 20. Actually, I have it pulled up right here. So how many do I got here? We got 22 rules that I live my life by, which is every single day, these are the things that I'm trying to like check off. And they're little things like every single day, recite my yearly goals, or every single day, spend 30 minutes learning, or every single day, work out for 30 minutes, or time block my day. And every time I get to do those things, I get to check them off the box, right? And so I get to look at that, and I get to have that dopamine, that sense of accomplishment to say, look at that, I'm making progress, I'm doing the thing. Even if I can't see the result now, I've identified that these are my lead measures, which are more important than the lag measures, because the lag measure is, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, well, the only way to know then when you've lost 20 pounds is when you go to the scale to measure yourself, and you either did it or you didn't. It's binary. Whereas the lead measure is less about I'm going to lose the weight and more about what are the actions that you're taking every single day that if you do them consistently, you believe will maximize your opportunity or your chances or likelihood of accomplishing the lag measure. So that might be, okay, instead of focusing on losing the weight, I'm going to focus on eating a salad every day, or drinking 3 bottles of water every single day, or getting to the gym for an hour every day. Like, those are the lead steps that if you do these things, hopefully they lead to the lag. And because progress is a process that doesn't look like much in the moment, that's because it takes so long to achieve those lag measures. We have to find ways to measure those lead measures, those things in our life that we can control on a daily basis, so that we can reward and acknowledge that we are making progress. Because I think one of the things that humans need to have if they want to be successful, or they want to have a sense of success, and they want to have a feeling of fulfillment, accomplishment, or just content, is they have to feel like they are making progress. We're like sharks. If you're not swimming forwards, you're drowning. Humans are like that. Like, the people whose lives have just kind of stalled out, they're no longer making progress in their relationships, or in their health, or in their careers. Those are the people that start to slide into depression, or just slide into this state of chaotic entropy. And so we need to be moving forward. We have to have a sense of forward progress. And that can be hard because, again, progress is a process that doesn't look like much in the moment. So that was one of the lessons that I learned in 2021. Not necessarily the most important one, but a very important one, definitely, for maintaining the mindset and the habits or rituals that you need to have if you want to chase and maybe someday even catch your capacity. So hopefully, I hope you found some of this ranting, this pontificating, this monologuing interesting. Hopefully it brought you a little bit of value. And if it did, hey, do me a favor, just go share it with a friend and a family member, somebody that you think would benefit from hearing the message of today's podcast. And if you get a chance, also go drop a review on iTunes, because that just helps the algorithm, helps this thing spread so that other people can come into the community, and hopefully they can amplify their impact in the world as well. So without further ado, get on out of here, go tackle your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.